CNBC-TV18 presents Charging the Grid.
Hello and welcome to CNBC-TV18 presents Charging the Grid, a special episode where we spotlight breakthrough innovations shaping India's energy future. Well, as India accelerates its energy transition to meet ambitious renewable energy targets and ensure grid stability, battery energy storage systems, or BESS, have emerged as a critical enabler. This CNBC-TV18 special will bring together key voices from industry, policy, and innovation to decode the potential and path forward for large-scale energy storage in India. So let's meet our guests for this discussion, starting with Harsh, who is the Managing Director for IndiGrid. Joining Harsh is Saurabh Kumar, Vice President, Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, also shortened for GAP. And finally, we have with us Abhishek Ranjan, CEO of BSES Rajdhani Power Limited, or BRPL. Gentlemen, great to have you on board and looking forward to understand more about the BESS ecosystem which can power India's ambitions and provide grid stability. So let's start with you, Harsh. When I look at the big project, India's first regulated utility-scale standalone BESS that IndiGrid has brought about in working with the GAP and, of course, BRPL. I want you to outline for our viewers what is the strategic implication of this and what is going to happen in the Indian energy landscape. What does this project mean?
In the energy security journey of India, we believe BESS provides the missing puzzle. By just investing, let's say, 5% of overall investment that we do in solar and grid, it is providing stability to the grid and allows us to use the renewable energy when sun don't shine. So I think that's the critical part of BESS technology. Kilokeri especially is a very unique experiment that got done in India. We are very proud to be associated with BRPL and GAP to commission that project. And the significance of that being first regulated transmission and BESS utility project is that majority of the investment and BESS capacity that is needed is in the states with the Discom, who is serving the customer. And most of them are regulated entities. And the biggest regulatory challenge is that how do you invest in this new technology and make it part of a regulated asset or expense which consumers can pay for, and then eventually the capacity gets built. So this is the biggest pioneering work that was done by GAP and BRPL to get that off the ground, to actually tender this project out with the blessing of the regulator. And our job was to commission it within time and schedule. And fortunately, all of it has panned out pretty well. We had just commissioned exactly on the time that was given to us.
Abhishek, let me come to you to get the Discom perspective on this, because looking at the Kilokeri project, as has been mentioned, hopefully it creates a spark. So in terms of operational benefits from a Discom perspective, what are you expecting? And what are the challenges that you faced so far, which you hope this will resolve?
Delhi as such, for example, an urban setting with semi-urban, semi-rural setting, and especially a continental kind of climate, right? So it plays a very important role on the demand shapes and load curves. So every day, if I say diurnal variation of load is very humongous, especially in the winters as well as in summers. And that too, we have seasonal variation in the load, right? From in the winters till in peak summer, we are heading towards. Now, battery, wherever the load curve is not flat and you have such variations, peakedness is very peaky. Flexible resources like battery storage plays dual role. First role is it helps you in relieving the congestion in the grid. So in the peak times, what happens is the grids are, designed and planned and executed to meet the peakest load, right? So battery provides a very important source of providing N-1 redundancy to the network, and especially the battery prices cooling down, this has become much more affordable and palatable to the regulator. That is number one. Number two is energy arbitrage. So the operational challenge that we face is in the peak hours when the demand peaks, so the prices on the wholesale market also peaks. And the Honorable CRC has capped it at 10 rupees a unit. And if you see the price curves on IEX, the discovered prices are at 10 rupees for most of the time of the day. in evening and early in the morning as well, especially in the winters and now in summers as well. So these battery resources actually help you in doing energy arbitrage. So both these factors actually help in lowering the tariff, retail tariff, expected to lower the retail tariff for the overall Discom power purchase cost, and therefore that will having an impact on the customer
as well. Right. So grid stability, energy arbitrage, and ultimately a lower tariff for the end consumer. We're hoping
that is the direction.
This is the paradigm that shapes up. All right. Moving forward, Saurabh, let me come to you. Your thoughts on the project, and broadly, what do you think is going to be India's play in the BESS opportunity, and how is GAP helping in sort of shape that narrative? And when we look at action, around equitable and scalable energy storage in India's clean energy transition, because the mission has been to transition to renewable energy and to do it effectively, but to solve all the problems around the way. How does BESS play a role here?
I think it's a very pioneering project in more ways than one. As every panelist has said, it's the first grid-connected project that has been approved by the regulator. But most importantly, it lays out a paradigm where the whole design is such that it provides multiple benefits to the distribution utility. Now, batteries technically can offer 14 to 15 different values that can help the grid at the distribution level. So we have created a new playbook, and I would like to thank BRPL and of course IndiGrid for helping us through that. This is a paradigm that we want to now replicate across the country. What it does is it takes out the capital cost of the batteries. Because if you can monetize 4 different value streams, arbitrage being one, let's say capex deferral being the other, and many voltage support, frequency control, you then take out the cost of the battery. It all depends upon what is the kind of values that the Discom wants, and can start procuring this whole thing. So what we want to do in India is to take this to a 5 gigawatt story in the next 2 to 3 years, largely by creating standard documents. So another thing that was pioneering in this project is standard documents for the first time in India came out. Standard bidding documents, standard documents for contracts between the developer and the utility. And then we have also created an open source battery management software, which can help you to manage the battery charging, discharging in a particular way so that you are able to maximize the benefit. So we see a lot of role of battery storage in the coming years and months.
And it's great to see that the framework is being laid out so that the industry grows organically and grows in a way that is sustainable. Absolutely. Taking that forward, Harsh, let me come to you. When I look at the EnerGrid platform, I want you to talk more about that, because it is a collaboration between IndiGrid, BI and Norfund, and it aims to make greenfield transmission and standalone BESS projects in India. So how does this partnership sort of enhance IndiGrid's capabilities in the renewable energy sector?
So I think as we all recognize that the incremental investment that is happening in the sector, in the grid and battery, which is integral part of the transmission grid, is happening to enhance its ability to harness the renewable energy that we are generating. And we play in the middle segment, as I say. The first one is renewable energy generation, which is the solar and the wind and the hydros. And then the middle segment is where the transmission and the batteries sit in. So we play in that area. And we being an InvIT, we could only invest around 10% of our AUM in the development stage, which limits of how much contribution that we can do in the development phase. That's where the most of the growth is happening. And EnerGrid platform comes in over there to allows us to make investment in the transmission and battery energy space. And especially both the sectors are going through phenomenal amount of investment that the India needs. And honestly, this is the only platform which plays as financial sponsor owned and professionally managed, which makes it investable to a lot of ESG funds and climate focused funds. And we feel that this opportunity is very timely for the shareholders, which is BI, Norfund and IndiGrid, as well as for the country, that we can deploy the ESG and climate capital to where it's needed.
Well, on that note, it's time for us to take a short break, but stay with us as we'll be right back with more insights from the leaders shaping the future of power in India. Stay tuned.
CNBC-TV18 presents Charging the Grid.
Welcome back to CNBC-TV18 presents Charging the Grid. We are in conversation with industry experts on how BESS is enabling grid reliability, renewable integration and a smarter, cleaner energy future for India. All right, let's dive right back into the discussion. And we were talking in the last segment about how regulators and industry are coming together in sync to hopefully resolve a lot of these issues. Let me come to you, Harsh, first, because when we look at the government's push for renewable energy integration, how is IndiGrid, I want to understand from you, how is IndiGrid positioning itself to capitalize on, say, policy incentives related to energy storage systems? Because clearly everyone is interested in making this ecosystem grow. The question is, how are players capitalizing on the opportunity to make sure that it's a sustainable growth? What would you say?
I think like any other upcoming sector, there is tremendous amount of support from the regulators and the government to invest in this area, and recognition that this is an integral part of the grid that is needed for energy transition. I think what incrementally we can expect policymakers and regulators to really think about is small tactical changes that this journey can become smoother. For example, the first one is as there's upcoming, the new plants are getting built, we need a Indian standard, right, of what battery energy storage should look like. Right now, all of us are, or I would say most of us are following global standards, but in the absence of an Indian standard, in the reverse auction and the bidding scenario, we will see some elements coming in undercutting players, and eventually those capacities will not get built, which is damage to the grid in the country and the opportunity. So raising the bar high, declaring that this is what we need as a grid system is absolutely essential, which will ensure that only players with repute get built and get built quality assets. I think that's something which is essential because we are at the early stage of this expansion.
Let me take that forward and bring you in, Saurabh, because another issue is going to be affordability when we look at large-scale BESS deployment. So what financial models or partnerships is GAP exploring to make energy storage more accessible in India?
So if you look at short duration energy storage, 2 hours, 4 hours, that at today's battery prices is completely affordable to Discoms. And in fact, the early data from the project in Kilokri shows that it is actually net positive to the Discom. But yes, there are a couple of things. For example, the long duration energy storage, or when you are looking at providing energy storage for coal heavy, kind of fossil heavy states like Jharkhand, you do need to provide some incentives. Then when you look at long duration energy storage, the technology itself is evolving. So I will not like to say what we would do because we don't even know what technology will mature at what point in time. But yes, clearly what is needed, as we see the Indian market and very much similar to the markets in Southeast Asia and also Africa, you need technical support. You need to provide technical support to the utilities largely.
All right, Abhishek, let me come to you from the Discom's perspective, because if hopefully the affordability equation becomes more and more in favor, which it looks that it might happen if the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. The question that I have for you is then, how are you looking forward to integrate more, sort of BESS into your projects? Because Kilokri is the start. So when we look at the issues which you have outlined earlier, whether it's enhancing grid stability or managing peak demand, from a host of challenges which BESS helps you resolve, what's the plan now after Kilokri? Let's say, how do you move forward with BESS deployments?
It looks very conducive to see, and we are already working on certain designs and find out whether we can replicate across our network where the network is already heavy in terms of congestion in summer months, and therefore provide a lot of support over there. Second is in Delhi, especially West Delhi, we expect a lot of solar plants to come up. And Delhi also has a very unique regulation which is called group net metering and virtual net metering, which is basically community solar. So to integrate that into the grid, BESS is also going to play a very vital role. So that is one way we are doing some modeling exercises to see how you integrate those solar coming in within the state of Delhi, integrate it with the grid, number one, and number two, the BESS also provides the support to the grid in terms of congestion, peak load congestion. So that is the third use case that is getting added over there. Now, having said that, we are also roping in and signing PPAs for variable renewable energy. We have already signed PPAs for variable energy, and we strive to grow, more green Discom. So to balance that renewable energy and in terms of the schedule which is given, the BESS within the network is also going to be very, very helpful.
Harsh, coming to you, because the players in the ecosystem also need to be robust, as you mentioned, if it has to be a sustainable growth path. So let's look at IndiGrid. IndiGrid has delivered consistent returns to its investors since inception. So how do investments in BESS align with your strategy to ensure stable and growing returns? Because at the end of the day, the players also have to earn money. What would you say to them?
I think BESS came about 2 years ago, or rather 3 years ago, when the first bid came in. And we saw it as an adjacency, that it is in the same sector, the same grid that we are building, it's attached to that. And I would say over 80% of skill sets were complementary to what we do. And fortunately, and with help of GAP and BRPL and others, the contracts were structured in the right way as a long-term agreements with take-or-pay contracts, with annuity-like contracts, which is where we play well. And I think it was a very good match for us to expand into this space early on. And that's why we think that this is going to be a new area of investment, which is very close to what we do. And we started our experiment first time 3 years ago by putting a small battery system in our own substation, experimenting with that, before we actually won the first tender, which was the Kilokri project 2 years ago. And now today we have almost a gigawatt of pipeline with different customers, starting from GUVNL, NVVN, similar type of contracts. So we do see that this adds tremendous value to our portfolio, and we see it as a sizable amount of growth opportunity for us. So it meets stability, predictability, and growth, all three for us.
Absolutely. Now, as we head into the last leg of the conversation, let's see what the average consumer has to take away from this discussion. So one would be, of course, the reliability of power supply. Everyone gets tired of power cuts. So coming to you, Abhishek, when we look at BESS and the vast benefits that it presents in terms of reliability of power supply for the average consumer, what would you have to say to our viewers?
So BESS does help in making power more reliable. In fact, it may help, and calculations are yet to be done, but it is going to help in improving the SID, which is sustained average of interruption duration index. So that is going to help in that. And apart from that, as I said, it provides relief to the congestion, and therefore when it provides relief to the congestion, meaning it discharges at the time when the PTR is also getting loaded. PTR meaning power transformers. That means it will be loaded only its rated capacity, and therefore the chances of getting failed becomes very minimal. So therefore reliable power supply. But more than that, it is also going to provide more green power to the customer.
All right, before we wrap things up, gentlemen, a look into the crystal ball. What excites all of you about the future of battery energy storage in India? Maybe we'll start with you, Harsh.
I think what excites us the most about the future of battery energy storage in India is that we have ability and opportunity to become the largest battery storage capacity developer in the world. The reason being, every part of the world has different energy dynamics. India is at a place where it's not just about affordability, it's also about energy security. That we do depend on coal for coal import, for reliability of our grids and energy consumption. And as EVs get more mobilized, we also depend on oil to use our power our vehicles. 10 years down the line, we do see that electricity sector eating into oil and gas to that extent, and therefore energy security is closely linked to electricity, which is closely linked to our ability to de-link ourselves from coal supply. And that goes back to renewable dependence. And battery energy storage is a very, very crucial small piece for that. And this is what excites us, that this battery striking this battery energy storage gold right will enable us to energy security eventually in 10 years' time. So I think this is the most exciting part.
We're at the start of a gold rush, hopefully. All right, Saurabh, coming to you, what excites you most about the future of battery energy storage in India?
I think if you look at the last 5 years, with a few false starts, I think the BESS market has really now come up into shape. We have done the right way. The Kilokri project is an example, prime example of that. And now we see mushrooming of many, many tenders all around. There is government intent, there is a viability gap funding, there is a regulatory framework that is there. So I really see a kind of not just mushrooming, I would say it is transformation of this market moving forward. I would only say to everyone, regulators, industry, Discom, that please say yes to BESS.
All right, say yes to BESS. That's the message coming in from Saurabh. Abhishek, coming to you for the last word. From a Discom perspective, the future of BESS in India, what excites you?
See, BESS can provide a very good answer to energy trilemma, so which is energy equity, energy security, and sustainable energy. So when you look at the voltage pyramid and the pyramid of the consumers, if BESS is utilized in a proper way, given that the prices are coming down, and we are not talking about only one technology, which is LFP as of now. But I see what excites me is several new technologies are in offing, where India would also be self-dependent in terms of the raw materials. And when that becomes at tier level 8 or 9, so it becomes more a solution towards energy affordability or energy equity basically, right? So it excites me that this is going to be a very good component for any distribution utility to solve the energy trilemma for its consumers.
All right, hopefully India powers ahead in its BESS journey. That was indeed a powerful discussion though on the pivotal role of battery energy storage systems or BESS in shaping India's energy future. A big thanks to all of our guests here for sharing their insights into the technology, policy and partnerships driving BESS adoption at scale. And as we've heard today, India's clean energy journey hinges on robust storage solutions, and it's the collaboration between innovators, regulators and investors that will unlock the true potential of energy resilience. Thank you so much for joining us for this special presentation. Have a great day.
CNBC TV18 presents Charging the Grid.